Bienvenue à Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly de Quebec City, Quebec. We have a great show for you from Quebec with John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, and Pat Clifton of the College Rugby Show. Rugby Wrap-Up's MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle.
There is a massive responsibility on the 23 that are privileged enough to step out on that field today.
Let's get it all started with Rugby Morning's Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick, calling in from the Southland or the greater Los Angeles area. John, how are you? What do you got for us?
Yeah, Matt, I noticed that you're not in New York City, so where in the heck is Matt McCarthy?
Well, if you haven't recognized Old Quebec, Le Vieux Quebec City, I don't know what to tell you. That's the Citadel behind me from my sky crib here in Quebec, and I'm here to investigate the potential return of an MLR team to Canada and celebrate my 10th wedding anniversary.
Wow, really boots on the ground effort. Kudos to your wife to be married to you still. But Matt, let's talk about a couple things here. One, how about those USA Men's Eagles qualifying finally for Rugby World Cup 2027 with a win over Samoa? It took a little bit of time, but they got it done. Does winning heal all wounds here?
You know what? I'm all about forgiveness, and the win is a biggie for Team USA. I didn't think they were going to be able to do it historically. They haven't done well against Samoa, but hats off, kudos, they did it. USA is going to the World Cup in 2027, and they're going to win it. What else you got?
Wow. Well, first of all, I want to give a special little shout out. Luke Hardy, he came on for Chris Helsenbeck, who had to come off. Luke Hardy, who's been much maligned by a lot of folks in MLR and international circles over the last 18 months or so. Gutsy performance for him.
Including you on this very program.
Johnny, run the tape. I've never said one bad thing about Luke Hardy, but
to
kudos to Luke Hardy for coming in. Gutsy performance, key kicks, scoring a try, taking a knee to the rib cage. Kudos, Luke Hardy, and take that, Matt McCarthy, for saying bad things about Luke Hardy.
I never said anything bad about a fellow Irishman, and I was shocked that you did, but you're half Italian, so that's why. That explains that. What else you got for us?
Matt, that's it. You're bearing the lead here. You've got some news you need to share.
Well,
you're in Quebec.
I got some rumors, and they're pretty strong sources that say there's going to be some major changes come MLR 2026, but we will indeed have a season, I'm told. There is a rumor that Canadian players will be considered foreign players from now on, which would make this a more American league because, that's one thing. And they're also going to limit the slots on international players to like 5 per match day 23, which again would mean American players would be playing a lot more. What's your take on that?
Wow, mind blown. There's a lot to process there, but one, I mean, what does that mean potentially for, say, like an Anthem-style Canadian team? Could we have another Canadian MLR team come in then, and where's that money going to come from? Those are some of the questions I have off the top.
Well, let's just look at the Chicago Hounds and the New England Free Jacks. If you take the Canadian players off that team and put them on one team, that would make sense, and that might speed up the process of World Rugby doing that Anthem experiment in Canada that's been rumored to be happening. So, yeah, I think, I'm going to talk to Bryan Ray, our resident Canadian, about this later on in the program, so we'll have more on that. But, yeah, you're going down the right path there, John, which is what you do. You're a right path goer. What else?
I think Robert Frost once said, you come up along a path, you choose the path least, whatever. I was not much of an academic. You're an English guy. You're an English major at wherever you went to college.
I chose the one less traveled by, and I certainly did, covering rugby, and so did you. We're both idiots. We are lost in the wilderness of rugby. Anything else, John?
Yeah, Matt, I guess so. So we're hearing there's going to be a Major League Rugby season. How many teams here? And are there any other shifting? Is there other shifting going on? Any mergers? Anything else going on?
Well,
I'm curious.
Utah's still looking for a significant investor, and everybody seems to think that that's going to happen. I'm a little cautious about that, and if they do lose Utah and go to 6, that can still work. And from what I understand, they're looking at all different possibilities, but a 6-team MLR 2026 is a reality. Maybe talk to Super Rugby Americas and maybe a little bit of synergy there. That's another rumor. So we got a lot going on, a lot to unfold, and a lot to hope for, John. Anything else? Last comment.
I just hope you and your wife have a beautiful, beautiful time there in Canada, and say hello to Bryan Ray for me when you see him at his igloo.
Well, he's in Canada. Just because he's in Canada doesn't mean he's anywhere near Quebec. He's in Nova Scotia, Halifax, to be specific. And John,
Is that the North Pole?
And the celebration really is for here, other than the wedding anniversary, is to find out from Canadians if there's going to be a major league team here again. That's what we're doing here. We're doing it with boots on the ground, as you said. And on that note, I want to thank you. And we have to go to break, and we'll be back after this. Don't go away.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we're back with our College Corner and Pat Clifton of the College Rugby Show, and I couldn't be more happy or giddy. Pat, welcome back.
Dude, happy to be here. Thanks for having me back in our little corner of collegiate rugby here. It's exciting times.
It's a corner of collegiate rugby. How do you say that in French? A quarter of collegiate rugby in French. Boom. How you doing? Anyway, Pat, you've got an Arrows hat on. Is that because I'm in Quebec?
Allez les Arrows. Yes. And, a little tip of the cap to Bryan Ray, our Canadian friend who I think is on the show as well. So why not? I just don't have any gear left of MLR teams that I got NOLA gear. I got New York gear. I got Toronto gear. I don't have any gear of teams that still exist. I think I have a Houston Striker shirt somewhere.
So maybe you're the jinx.
It could be me.
You're the mush.
If you're one of the remaining MLR teams, do not send me any gear.
Okay, you've Pat Clifton the mush, ladies and gentlemen. If you want your team to go out, send Pat Clifton some merch. Anyway, Pat, let's talk college rugby. And I got my college rugby shirt on. Despite the fact that you got an MLR hat on, you got some college rugby news. We had this kickoff of the season.
Yeah, we did. We have Friday Night Rugby is National Collegiate Rugby's game of the week. It's kind of like our Monday night football, but Friday Night Rugby. And we had our big season opener last week, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Justin Hickey, Tui Osborne, great coaching matchup, a top 10 D1 team against a top 10 D1 AA team. And it was a really great game, 14-7 at halftime. The Irish kind of separated there in the second half. Jack Waterhouse was really the story. This guy was a U18 Springbok, probably the number one decorated recruit in a long time coming into college rugby. He hurts, it hurts his knee and aggravates some tendonitis 2 games into his career. So he's since out for 18 months, and now he's in his junior year. He's only played 2 games. This was his comeback game, scored 3 tries in like 60 minutes of action. This guy is huge. He's fast, like bigger and faster than Cam Dolan, like a more dynamic from South Africa. This kid definitely has MLR future if that's where he wants to go. And he was just had an explosive game and put them up. And so that was a great season opener for us. That was last week. And this weekend we got coming up our first women's game of the season, which is Wisconsin-Eau Claire against Northern Iowa. So that should be another huge one. Derek Wagner at Eau Claire against, of course, the great coaching staff, Megan Flanagan there in Northern Iowa. So it's going to be another great Friday Night Rugby this weekend as well.
All right, getting back briefly to Jack Waterhouse, which is a great name, or a great rugby name, right?
All drink of Waterhouse is what I like to call him.
Okay, all right, okay. You call him what you will. But this might be a dumb question, but does his residency toward USA Eagles qualification count while he's hurt?
As long as he's registered, as long as his registration's proper and like there's more nuance to it, I gather, like he can't leave the country for more than 30 days at a time in the year. Like as long as he ticks all the boxes, and whether you're injured or not doesn't matter. So if he's been doing, been ticking all the boxes that all the other, students should be doing, then yeah, his residency clock should be ticking.
All right. Okay. Now let's skip to what's ahead. What's on the horizon right now in the upcoming week?
Yeah, we got a huge week here in college rugby. The Atlantic Rugby Conference starting the season had 4 of the top 5 teams in men's Division I were all in the Atlantic Rugby Conference. So week in and week out, this is, for lack of a better term, this is our SEC. And this week we have Queens versus Bonnies. These are 2 teams that haven't lost yet this season in conference. That's a huge matchup. And I think these are both very serious title contenders. And then we got Wheeling versus Walsh, which is another big one. Walsh actually put Notre Dame to the sword a couple of weeks ago, and they look like they're very good. They've kind of turned over the leaf now. Their second year as a program after adopting a lot of the kids from that national championship Notre Dame college team. And Wheeling looks outrageous with this Taku Musanguini kid sliding in at 10.
That's not an Italian dinner special, by the way, the Musanguini.
Nope, that is not it. He is probably arguably the best playmaker in all of college rugby. He helped Zimbabwe qualify for the World Cup this summer, got 10 caps already for the Sables. So he is fantastic. And Wheeling, I think, finally has that missing piece of playmaker with him. So this weekend, 2 huge matchups, Queens Bonnies, Wheeling Walsh. That's what I'm looking at.
All right. Well, Pat, as per our partners on the rugby odds, who's going to win those matches and by how much?
All right. Really put me on the grill here. I like Bonnies. I think they look really good. I think it's going to be a 1-score game. I'll take Bonnies by 3. Wheeling Walsh, I'm going to take Wheeling. I think Musanguini is going to turn, that pretty good hot rod into a full-fledged Ferrari this season.
Whoa. I'm
going to take Wheeling by 12.
Wheeling by 12. You know what? I'll take that 12, Pat Clifton.
All right.
I will take that as per the rugby odds. I will take that. All right. What else you got for us, Pat? How about news on the show?
The college rugby show. We were just live at Notre Dame. It was the first time we've ever done our little college game day live setup there at Stinson. It was awesome. It was a super great time. We had the mascot, the leprechaun, behind us, supporting us and cheering us on. So that was awesome. Now we're going back to our video podcast, which we're going to do bi-weekly. So check us out on YouTube, the College Rugby Show. Check us out on Instagram. Your old buddy, Zach Lanning. We did a great bit with him where he tried out for the Notre Dame rugby team. You'll have to just go to YouTube and check that out and see if you made it.
Brilliant. And he's also known as Prox Z on the rugby odds because he fills in as a proxy for John Bradshaw Layfield or Mike Friday from time to time. But he's now Prox Z. That's who he is.
I like it. That's his.
All right.
It's like a street proxy. That's cool.
Yeah. All right. And Pat Clifton, once again, you nailed it. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, and enjoy Quebec City, Matt.
Oui. Il est très bien ici en Quebec, and you must.
Allez la Rose.
Viva la France! Viva la Rose! Viva la Quebec! Okay, we've assassinated enough French for now, Pat. Thank you to Mr. Pat Clifton. We'll be right back with Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News and some bombs dropped on him from the MLR after this. You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Again, we're back with Mr. Bryan Ray of Ray's Rugby / America's Rugby News. Bryan, you got some celebratory Eagles behind you, don't you?
Yeah, well, I guess we do have to celebrate because they got it done. They beat Samoa. They're in the World Cup, and just a good thing for North American rugby. And after what's been a very, very rough off season, and few weeks, months for the Eagles, it's been pretty tough for them as well. So to get that out of the way, huge relief for that camp.
Yeah, that tornado that blew across the United States was actually a collective phew by the American Eagles USA Rugby fan base and executive offices. Wow. I said to John Fitzpatrick earlier, hey, I was the one that I didn't think that they were going to beat Samoa. Historically, they haven't played against Samoa well, but you throw it all out the window when it's a new set of bodies, and you got to tip your cap. And wow, am I relieved and happy that now we are in World Cup 2027, but because we're the hosts, we are in 2031 as well. So we don't have to go through this in 2028, 29, 30 or whatever, right? So all good news. But Bryan, I got a whole box of rumors that I got to hit you with. I hit Fitzpatrick with him earlier. He's still spinning. You saw him in the green room, but here's number one. There will be an MLR 2026 champion. That's a quote. Number two, international slots rumored to be down to 5 per match day 23. So that means only 5 international players can be starting in your starting lineup. Canadian players may now be considered international players.
Well, it's nice to hear there's going to be a champion. 5 international slots, I think, drops the standard of the league. I think that's just the way it is. You need some of those guys to just lift things up, certainly in key positions. And if you are making Canadian players international, essentially you're taking Canadians out of the job because they're just going to go and hire a New Zealander or, someone else if you've only got 5 international slots. So unless Canada gets a team from World Rugby, they pony up and put a team in there. That's terrible for Canadian rugby and a horrible slap in the face to the Canadian fans who have supported that league from day one. And my reaction to that would be very, very disappointing decision.
Well, let's stay on the positives here for a second, because maybe it does enable World Rugby to fast track a Canadian MLR team. They've got, if you take the Hounds and the Free Jacks, for instance, and take the Canadian players over there and put them on one team, you got a damn good team.
I don't like that. Personally, I want the Canadian anthem, but I also want Lucas Rumble and Mason Flesch starring for Chicago. I also want the Canadian flavor at the Free Jacks. I also want Canadian players playing in other teams. It's when you play with other players and other coaches and experience those other environments and then bring those all together. That's what really, to me, makes a great national team. So I'm not in the boat that we need one American team and one Canadian team playing in Super Rugby or URC. I'm just not. It's never worked for me. It was a terrible flop for the Pumas when they had that in Super Rugby. People got all excited about, them, getting to the final or whatever and doing well in Super Rugby, but it was terrible for the national team. So I'm just not in that boat. I like the separation of players, the dissemination across the whole league. I like that it brings different players together, so to me, that's a very, very poor decision. And to be honest, I mean, if World Rugby doesn't pony up with a Canadian team, do I even want to support a league that does that to Canadian players? That's my initial reaction to that.
Well, I don't know if the intent was to do it to Canadian players. And again, this is rumor. I'm at the rumor mill, just that take that with a grain of salt. It's good authority, most of these items. But, maybe it could be that they're trying to do that Anthem model across the league in the United States, right? And whether you agree with it or not, it's a gutsy move, and they need to make gutsy moves as per survival, right? They've been in the league now 8 years. You've had the attrition, you've had the addition, you've had subtraction, you've had movement, and now you've got a radical change, perhaps, that, can you blame them for trying this?
No, but I mean, maybe you set a limit. Maybe you say they can only have 3 Canadians in the lineup on top of the 5 international. But to class them in the same is just, It doesn't work for me. I mean, that's a drastic drop you're talking about. I mean, I've been on the show advocating for them to, consider dropping that limit from, first of all, I hated the trades. I agreed that it was bad to see teams with, 12 import players in a 23. I never liked the trade system. And I advocated for gradual reduction from 10, drop it by one year down to 9, down to 8, down to 7, maybe 7's the number. I think 5 is too low. But if there's no teams to play, you got to find places for Americans, obviously. So maybe
and
that's
we have to find the American players.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's American talent there. We know that the talent is there. It's just a matter of getting them on the pitch. And so I can see that angle, but for me, it's a North American ecosystem, and we've kind of thrown that out for a while now, and I wish we would just get back to it. And that's my thought on that. Very disheartening if they make Canadian players classes international.
Well, let's play the devil's advocate and look on the other side of it. You're not necessarily limited to 5 international slots. So you could, if you're an owner and you want to have more international players in your camp, that you're rotating in out of that 5, but at the same time helping develop your players, you can make an argument for that.
Then you're going back down. Let's get the retirement crew in here, the 35 plus guys who are on a victory lap rather than players who are, you'd really want, who are, I think the better ones that have come in have been on the younger side of things, maybe in the NPC or just on the outside of Super Rugby. And look at Harrison Goddard, the scrum half for LA, was outstanding in MLR. Those are the kinds of players you want. Those are tough numbers, tough things to think about. Obviously, they're in a tough spot. I can see that space, but this is drastic. There's a lot of drastic stuff coming out. To lose another team this week and possibly more, you just wonder, man. Confidence is real low in the league right now. They could say that there's going to be a championship next year, but this kind of stuff does not fill me with confidence.
Another potential scenario, if things go sideways, and maybe not if they go sideways, is some kind of working relationship with Super Rugby Americas. What do you make of that?
Well, if it helps improve relations and gets us back to the Americas Rugby Championship, I'm all for it. I mean, otherwise it just seems like, logistical problems there. Maybe it's worth exploring. I think it's probably more realistic to, could get a champion versus champion thing, champion of the Americas. That would be, and if it's a shorter season, it probably aligns better. But, we'll see. There's certainly a lot of costs involved in something like that.
Maybe a top of the table champion in the MLR that you just win if you win out the league, and then you play for the Americas Championship. But wind in the sails because of the win for Team USA and the fact that it looks like Utah's ownership may actually pan out as legit and strong. So if that's the case, that's 7. Perhaps World Rugby and Canada get together immediately because of your concerns that you just voiced. They've got to be thinking about that. Maybe there's 8 teams with a Canadian team. Do you have a preference on where the Canadian team would be?
Well, I think if we're talking short notice, there's only one way to do it, especially if Rugby Canada is operating. I mean, if they're starting later in the year, maybe Toronto is an option. Again, you can revive the Arrows, but I just think on short notice, the clear choice is probably going to be Victoria, just because that's where the setup is. They don't have to worry about stadium conflicts, that kind of thing. They can play it at Rugby Canada's, base it out of Rugby Canada HQ, and the coaching staff. You could have Phil Mack running the side. He's already got MLR coaching experience, so that seems like an easy thing to do. I mean, you're effectively running a senior pride, expanded pride program kind of deal out of Starlight Stadium. Not, obviously Vancouver's the market you want to be in, but when we're talking about just throwing a team together on short notice like that, that seems to be the best solution. So that would be my guess. And if it gets a Canadian team, obviously I'm going to be excited about that. But again,
will you forgive the sins of the owners as far as you're concerned?
I'm not sure I will.
I think once you get the free merch from the new team in Canada, I think you'll be okay.
I think you guys are underplaying my sincere disappointment with a decision like that.
When are you lumping in me into the you guys thing?
The Americans, everybody south of the border. Canadians
dare you,
have done
sir.
a lot for MLR, a huge amount. The players have contributed an enormous amount. Bill Webb contributed an enormous amount. I just think, I can totally see them saying, and I think it would be fair, well, you can only have X amount of Canadians on top of an international limit, but to lump them in completely, I just can't agree.
Well, maybe after they see this, they'll shift because I think things are just, embryonic. And again, these are rumors, folks. These are rumors. And, we all know about rumors. But, Brian, I want to pivot and I want to put you in the director of rugby / GM position of a team that is in a league without a Canadian team. What Canadian players do you use your international slot on?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one. Obviously, your Rumble, your Flesh at the top of that kind of list. But you look at the other guy, Cali Martinez. He's, and he's a guy who's also, I believe he has access to an American passport. At least he was U.S. eligible. So I think that might help him with the visa kind of deal. That's the kind of player you like. Quatrin's over in France now, so I don't think he's going to be available. But there's not going to be that many Canadian players who are going to have a draw over an international player. Is kind of what I'm saying. A lot of these guys are still coming up. The younger guys don't have the experience yet. Even in Noah Flesh at Chicago, are you going to sign Noah Flesh, or are you going to sign some NPC center instead? I don't see a long list of Canadians who are going to be high on that, aside from the ones who are already in professional positions overseas or absolutely starting for their team today. A Brock Webster, maybe, sure, at New England, but I think those numbers are going to be slim.
And we're going to have challenging times at the number 10 position, certainly.
Yeah, and but again, number 10, I mean that's going to be the number one position for overseas guys, number 10 and tight head prop for sure, because it's hard to find really good players in those positions.
And I would argue lock.
Yeah, second row. There's another one. Not a lot of tall timber out there, so yeah, those three spots. And if you look at the Eagles rugby, certainly I would say second row and fly half would be the spots where the Eagles have the most concerns as far as depth and genuine international talent there. So that's going to be problematic for the league as well. When you set that limit, then those positions are going to go to import players. So does that really solve the problem that you're trying to solve there?
All right, Brian, I'm sorry I ruined your week, but again, it's just rumor. It's rumor, but it is the MLR Weekly rumor mill, which has, some legitimacy based on its record. And on that note, Bryan Ray, I must bid you au revoir. So au revoir, mon frère Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News / Ray's Rugby. Thank you. Merci beaucoup to John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Merci à Pat Clifton of the College Rugby Show. And merci beaucoup à vous for checking us out. Please check out our other programs. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. And please join our American Red Cross blood donor team. Merci beaucoup.
You speak a bit of French, don't you?
Well, potage bonne femme.